I've been thinking of two words that have kind of impacted me over this past week or weeks, and it's called living love. We are a living love community. You're treasured here because you are free from the constraints of what is outside of this sacred space. And regardless of gender identity, age, socioeconomic status, immigrant status, gender bias, this UU space is a place to be free. So we welcome you. Now the gallery and the speaker view, those of you on Zoom, will remain muted throughout the service, but feel free to comment, especially joys and concerns. At the end of our service, we invite you to small groups for coffee hour. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. We are fortunate on this sunny day to be gathered here, and we have a special guest who will illuminate and enlighten our values and our gifts. We want to remind you again, we are a community that supports, loves each other, and that is our goal. And so, may we continue with the service.
Could you please rise as you are willing and able and sing our first hymn?
as we move into our chalice lighting, may we be reminded of the symbol of the chalice and the symbol of light in the chalice, that all of us are part of that symbol and we are part of that light. I've asked Kevin Murphy to light the chalice as I say the words by Judith L. Corliss. At this small hour, in small towns and big cities, in single rooms and ornate sanctuaries, many of our sibling Unitarian Universalist congregations are also lighting a flaming chalice. As we light our chalice today, let us remember that we are part of a great community of faith. May this dancing flame inspire us to live our lives with the Unitarian Universalist ideals of love, justice, and truth. Now may you all, of course, light your own chalice at home and remember these words.
It's time to sing again. Could you please rise as you're willing and able? And we're going to turn the world around.
Now is the time of our offering, reminding ourselves that it takes a lot to support not only the building, but the grounds, the circumstances by which we meet and where we meet and how we meet. And so it's an opportunity to share of our bounty, whatever that might be. So we will begin the offering, noting that you can text your offering UUFNN to 73256 to contribute. You can also send a check to the office, and you can also contact the office if you want to give regularly out of your account, whatever that might be. And so let the offering begin. as David comes forward, may we dedicate this offering to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings.
Well, I just want to say that's hard to follow. Very nice. Very nice. Good morning. My name is Jackie. My pronouns are she and her, and I currently live on Washoe Paiute land. I got a big surprise on Tuesday as I was driving home from Southern California. My text came over my phone from Reverend Karen. I was like, what? I wasn't driving. Anyway, she was very excited to tell me that we had the opportunity to have the Reverend Senator Pat Spearman talk to our congregation today. She asked me if that was okay. You know what I said. You may or may not know that we had been planning to share today the Anti-Racist Culture Book Club had been planning to share our learnings from the last 2-3 years. And we happily offered to move ours to August. The songs and the readings you'll hear today were for that ARC service, not selected or approved by the Reverend Senator. Just a disclaimer. I also want you to know that the ARC Book Club participants really look forward to sharing with you in August. And Nathan gave up one of their services for us, so we'll be doing that. The song that we heard just a moment ago, Turn the World Around, do you know who wrote it? It's in our blue hymnal. Harry Belafonte, activist, author, very good-looking man, which I said one time, much to the chagrin of my daughter, Mom! He was also an activist, as you probably know, and passed recently, and I thought, oh, how appropriate. We want to honor him, and I wanted to include that today. I also want you to know, probably didn't know this, he was an undocumented child when he came to the United States, living in the shadows here in our country. Oh gosh, I'm gonna cry. Okay. The song Lift Up Every Voice and Sing is an African American national anthem we sing in solidarity today. Please consider joining us as we read the 22-23 UUA Common Read, Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism, by Nancy Parker Jones and Karen Lim, both UUs. There is a copy of the book, actually it might be checked out now, but you can look in the library. And we'll meet every other week starting June 7th from 6:30 to 8. I hope you'll join us.
Hi, everyone. So, I had to prepare a speech, right? That's the name of this game right now. And it's a big deal for me. I have the pleasure of being an intern this legislative season for Bells and Case. And so I get to see Reverend Senator Pat Spearman in the halls of the legislative building and while she's in committees every day. And it's a big deal for me to be standing here to introduce her. Like, that's pretty crazy. Especially since we sit down and we don't know each other. I mean, I know her, clearly, but she doesn't know me. And so, it's one of those things where you're like, yes, I'm Hannah, I know me. Everyone here kind of knows me, but you don't. I will be introducing you. And so I had to look up things about Senator Spearman because this is my first session here. I don't know much about her. So going into the building, not knowing anything about anyone, anything about Nevada, I had to judge people very quickly. And I do that quite well, I think. So there's quite a few members in our legislative building. There's quite a few people advocating for their constituents. There are not enough people like Senator Spearman advocating for their people. When it comes to somebody that's here to advocate for voices that cannot be in that building, she is that. She has a very, very good resume, I will say. She has quite a few things stacked in their favor of why she's so impressive and why she's here today and why she's in the building, why she was able to run for mayor, why Vice President Kamala Harris sponsored her. She's an advocate, she's a leader. But the most important thing I think about her is she represents a lot of the things UU represents in her daily way of life. And the biggest thing is her voice. And to be a voice for people in that building that cannot be there based off they have a job, or they're homeless, or they're minority, or they're veteran, women's rights, the LGBTQ, the first openly lesbian in the legislative building, because, I obviously noticed that first. That was clearly something I said, whoa, I see you. And then to Google it and find out, okay, the first, that was probably way harder than two, I believe that. So she's been standing strong and doing this for quite some time. And I am just in awe of somebody that made me stop and think, wow, I could do something like that. She's an inspiration and a voice to be reckoned with. So I am so honored to introduce you to Reverend Senator Pat Spearman.
Good morning, everyone, and this wasn't on the script, but I hope it's okay. I was moved by the song that we heard, Turn the World Around, and I thought about that, and I said, you know, each and every one of us we have part of the instrument, the tool, the ability to turn the world around. And Zach asked me, she said, so what are you going to talk about on Sunday? I said, I have no idea. No idea. We're right in the throes of trying to get through the second committee hearing, and I had a lot of bills that I was trying to get out and trying to talk to people about pushing them out. And as I thought about it, I said, you know, so this will be my last session in the legislature. I'll still be senator until 24. And somebody asked me, said, how do you feel about that? I said, well, you know, I have to go back and I have to think, because when I ran in 2012, I made some promises. And I need to make sure that I have done and am doing everything that I said that I would do. I often tell people that being a black woman and a member of the LGBTQ community, you have to be Donald or Daffy Duck to be more marginalized. So the work that I do for equality and equity comes from my heart. It comes from my heart, and it also comes from the place of my birth. I was born, at the time that I was born, there was segregation. And my mom and my dad told me the story the night before I was born, June the 9th. She said, a real sharp pain hit. And she said, oh, she said, it's time to go, time to go. They got in the car and about 2 blocks away from the hospital and drove up to the front of the hospital. My dad runs in and my mom is, oh, you know, if you've ever, you know. And so he runs in and he says to the lady, he says, my wife is pregnant. I need to get a wheelchair, you know, to get it. And the lady looked at him and she said, colored people don't come through the front door. They go to the back. And so he said he kind of looked like, are you kidding me? But he knew that she was right. He should not have gone through the front door, but he did because my mom was in pain. And so he ran back down the stairs, jumped in the car, and by the time he got all the way around to the back of the hospital where the elevator was, she was almost doubled over in pain. Water had broken everything. Carried her up the steps, and there was the freight elevator there, and pushed the button, the freight elevator comes down, and the doors open up, not this way, but this way, and up and down for those of you who are listening and not watching. And he said they got in there, and she said, oh, and as soon as the doors closed, she passed out. And Daddy said, he said, I was really concerned because I'm looking around the elevator, and he said there's trash in the elevator. There's, you know, old gloves or needles or something and food trash. And that's the elevator that they carried, you know, trash up and down. And so he said he was trying to make sure that Mom didn't touch any of that, but her head was on the floor. Her head was facing the rear of the elevator and her feet were facing the front. And he said by the time they got to labor and delivery and the nurses were there, the nurses said, oh, the baby is here. And Mom said my head and my shoulders were already out. And so I was born on a trash heap. But when I look back on that, my mom used to call me Speedy Gonzalez. She said you couldn't wait to get here. You had to come in the elevator. But as I look back on that, I said, you know, that really was the symbol for the way God would use me in this life. Because the only reason I was born there was because of segregation, discrimination, and ignorance. And ignorance, people not being comfortable with themselves, and so they had to find somebody to pick on. But the truth of the matter is that we have not come so far from that place. Can I take my coat off? Look, see? So I have one. Okay, I have one. The truth of the matter is we haven't come so far from that place. And we are in a place right now where every one of us has to ask ourselves the question, why am I here? And what is my purpose? And am I living my purpose? Not just living my purpose for the long term, but am I living my purpose? Am I living on purpose every day? And so I want to talk to you just for a few minutes from the subject, what you do today will follow you tomorrow. And what you do tomorrow will be today. And it will follow you for the next tomorrow, and the next tomorrow, and the next. In other words, what you are doing today will follow you for the rest of your life. And I chose a scripture from the Bible, and it's about Jesus talking to people about truth. And John 8:31-32, Jesus said to them, if you believe in me, continue my word, you're my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. But you know, when I stop and I look at that, I say, we all know what the truth is. I mean, the lady in the reception area in the hospital, she knew what the truth was. She knew that all of us are born and all of us are created by a divine entity, and so there's really no difference. She knew that truth, but she wouldn't act upon that truth. But there comes a point, a tipping point in our lives when we hide from ourselves has to be exposed into ourselves. The time when the impact of a secret that was so long suppressed and so heavy a weight to carry that it can no longer be hidden, and you can no longer push it down. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You know, one of the things that I did while I was in seminary is I took counseling classes. And whenever you're talking to someone who's trying to deal with something, usually the first thing that they do is they try to shove it down and act like it didn't happen. And I often use this metaphor. It's like if you put trash in your trash bag and you keep shoving it down and shoving it down, there will come a point where you can't shove anymore, or the bag will burst. And so there comes a tipping point when we all have got to acknowledge a truth. A child that has been molested will spend many years and maybe even decades trying to suppress those awful events and trying to act like nothing happened. But one day the memories will spring forth, and the child will say, I can't do this anymore. The drama-infested relationship when you're with someone and you're trying to convince yourself that they love you, and they're trying to convince you the only reason they're hitting you is because they love you. And to that I say, can you figure out another definition for love, please? Because this right here hurts. But people many times do those sorts of things because we cannot deal with the truth. The truth is painful. For all of us, it's painful. But whatever we do, we have to acknowledge one day it will spring forth. Dr. King, in a speech on the steps of the great monument in front of a crowd of marchers in 1963, and by the way, I'd like to tell people this, for those who don't believe that members of the LGBTQ community were not included in Dr. King's, the content of your heart, and not the color of your skin, the content of your character, not the color of your skin. I try to remind them that the 1963 March on Washington would not have taken place had it not been for a black gay man, Bayard Rustin. And so we have always been here, but the truth is, many times people would not see us, and many times we wouldn't even see ourselves. But he spoke these words about the bitterness of bondage, that despite the freedom that was proclaimed 100 years earlier, African Americans were still in bondage. a certain type of slavery that even exists in our nation today. With his legendary speech of "I Have a Dream," Dr. King forced us as a nation to acknowledge the bondage of hatred, the bondage of homophobia, the bondage of misogyny, and all of the isms, ISMS, all of the isms that people run to try to comfort themselves because they cannot deal with change. But if we're honest with ourselves, the change is really the evolution that always happens in life. Because if something is not evolving, it is dying. We're one of the most prosperous nations in the world, but we continue to perpetuate the bondage of poverty and public policy and religious rhetoric and self-righteous pomposity. That's a fancy word for arrogance, self-importance, and bourgeois. Okay, that's, you know, when I was in seminary, I think they charged me $37.50 for that word, but I'm gonna give it to you free. All right? We have the financial and technological means to lift people from the pit of economic despair, but we lack the political fortitude to pass legislation that will reform health care. Statistics have verified what communities of color have known all along. The criminal justice, JUSTICE, system without radical transformation, will continue to be a system of criminal just us, JUST space US. We have people working 2.5 jobs, but they can't afford one 1,400 one-bedroom apartment. We seem to be unable to convince corporate landlords that it's more better to involve themselves in goodness instead of greediness. It's the truth that we do not want to recognize our responsibility for the evolution of goodness in this world. And I hope I'm making sense to somebody. I'm one of those Pentecostal preachers, so you can say amen or holler. Just don't throw nothing. Okay, just don't throw nothing. We have seasoned citizens who have given more than half their lives to help create the communities that we call home. But once they pass 60, we treat them like they're trash. Go away. There's no use for you. Bring on the young people. You go sit down. And I tell people, you know, don't tell me to pass my torch. I ain't passing my torch. I'm telling you, right, I ain't passing. You know why I'm not going to pass it? I'm not going to pass it because the darkness that we face requires my torch, the younger generation's torch, and the generation behind them. It requires a whole lot of people to bring the light to get rid of the darkness that we live in right now. And so young people are there because they have ability, they have stamina. But you know, those of us that have salt and pepper hair, and you might have noticed that I said seasoned citizens, you know, those of us who have salt and pepper, we have the wisdom, you know. I don't know about you, but my mom used to tell me all the time, wait until you get older. And sometimes, you know, now I hear my mom's words jumping out of my mouth. I'm like, what just happened there? But we've got to recognize that the struggle for equality and the struggle for true freedom is one that requires multi-generations. Multi, meaning many. You know, I'm thinking about my dear sister, colleague in the Senate, Senator Neal. You know, we kind of lie to ourselves along times and try to say things aren't happening. And in my hometown of North Las Vegas, there is a community, Windsor Park. And Windsor Park was started by a group of black people, African Americans. We used to be known as colored, but so it was started back in the 60s. And the land that they were given was land that would not hold a home. And so the homes that are there are subsiding. They're falling. They're sinking into the ground. And there's been a 40-year fight to try to make sure that the people who are in Windsor Park get their just due. And so Senator Neal has been fighting very, very hard. And as I think about this, what you do today will follow you tomorrow. I think about the hard work that she's been doing on this project, trying to make sure that the people get their justice. 40-year fight, but she's in it, and she's not more than 40, but she's in it, and she's got both fists up, and she's fighting with the people for economic justice. I think about the people who walk through the halls of the Nevada State Legislative Building, and they're walking through the halls, and they're not getting paid for anything, but they're bringing to the table the voices of those who have been hidden by people who are afraid or even ashamed to admit that they are survivors of domestic violence. I think about the people who are walking through the halls, and they are the voices of women who have been incarcerated and now recently released, and they're trying to get custody of their children, but landlords will not rent to them because they are former felons. I think about the people who are walking through the halls, and they're trying to make sure that people who need mental and emotional help make sure that they get it. I think about the people who are walking through the halls, and they're talking about the budget process, and they're talking about our priorities. And I remember my dad saying to me, if you look at someone's checkbook, you know what their priorities are. And so there's something on the inside of me that when I walk through those halls, sometimes I just want to grab folks and shake them and say, do you understand we've got to do it today because tomorrow is not promised? What you do today will follow you tomorrow. We have to dig on the inside of ourselves and move away from, and I'm going to use three words, and they're going to be starting with the letter D. The letter D. The first one is denial. We all do that. This is not happening to me. It can't be happening to me. I was watching one of the reality shows. I was just trying to figure out what was going on. There's a reality show, and one of the lady, I guess her partner, had stepped out of fidelity with her best friend, and she said she's looking at them, embracing, and she's like, it's not happening, it's not happening. And sometimes I think that's what we do. We lull ourselves into complicity. And I say that complicity is also akin to complacency. You cannot look at what's going on today and say that's okay. And so we deal with denial that it's even happening, denial that maybe we can do anything about it. So what we got to do, we've got to learn how to deal with the realities of our situations, because what we do today will follow us tomorrow. Whatever we are doing right now, the history books will reveal that. I stayed at the building on Friday until a little after 6, waiting for a bill that I had to come out. And it was a bill that some constituents had brought to me to bring equity to the citizens of North Las Vegas. My Senate district is all in North Las Vegas. And so I do things for the entire state, but I always focus on North Las Vegas to make sure that I'm keeping my promise to those who elected me. And so what this would do is in 1970, North Las Vegas was incorporated, and they had 36,000 people, and they came up with four city council members. Well, 53 years later, they still have 4 city council members, but there are now 300,000 people, and somehow the city does not understand that that is not equal and equitable representation. And so the bill that they asked me to bring, I did that, and I kept urging and urging and urging and urging and urging the chair of the committee, just get it out, just get it out. And they kept saying, I don't have the votes. I said, well, put it up for a vote, because the people of North Las Vegas need to know who's with them and who is not. But they did not put it up. So the bill died. And so the denial that people people of color. North Las Vegas is the most diverse city in the state. And so the denial that people of color even need equitable representation is really turned into a sin. And I'm not talking about something that's religious. Sin is really missing the mark. And the mark would be that everybody would have the kind of representation, diversity in representation that everyone else has. But for some reason, they would not do that. And so the second thing I want to say to you, the truth is a dangerous concept for people who want to live in denial, because there comes a point in life when you can no longer deny the truth, but you know that putting the truth forward is going to upset your worldview. One of the things that happened, we saw in 2008 with the election of Barack Obama, it destroyed the worldview of those who wanted to make like some people were good and some people were gooder. I use that the right way. And there were some people, those that were gooder deserved this, but those that were just good, they didn't deserve all that. And so Barack Obama ascending to the presidency, the first African-American president, a true African-American because of his dad's roots, a true African, and because of that, then people lost their minds and they stopped drinking tea and started forming a party with tea. Hello. I'm almost done. So for people who cannot handle the truth, denial is their friend, because the truth is too dangerous. The denial of servitude, that's a form of slavery. The denial that our transgendered young people and middle-aged people and older people deserve the same type of respect and protection under the law, that's slavery. When you hear people talking about taking words out of a curriculum and taking textbooks off the shelf, that is a form of slavery. They are slaves within their own definition of humankind. And unless they accept the truth, they will continue to be in bondage. And so some people say, well, what do you feel about so-and-so? How do you feel about that? Well, you know, whatever they're doing in Florida. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever they're doing. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Whatever they're doing, they will continue to do until the people require them to acknowledge the truth that we are all created equal. The truth is dangerous. The truth is dangerous. The truth, many years ago, of the image of a young student of the University of Wyoming who was tortured and murdered and tied to a barbed wire fence near Laramie, Wyoming in 1988 would not let us ignore the fact that the kind of hatred that was out here, it was so pervasive, it had gone from ethnic, it had gone all the way into self-identification or affectional orientation. And I don't use sexual orientation because when you say sex, people's minds explode. Woo, ew. So it's affectional, and they couldn't handle it. But his image forced us to listen and look and see the truth. And so we had to begin to make some changes. And what am I saying to you today? I'm saying let us look around. The signs are all there. The signs are all there. Racial injustice, ageism, economic injustice, people who cannot find enough to eat. The people who are on the streets are veterans who have served in 2, 3, 4, 5 different combat tours, coming home and have no place to go. And they're coming home, all of their limbs are coming home, but there's a part of them that's still in the combat zone. During Vietnam, they used to call it shell shock. Well, we elevated it a little bit now. We call it PTSD. That's just a fancy way of saying there's some things that happen to me that I can't get rid of, but we owe the people who are not as blessed as we are, we owe them our action and our activity to make sure that we are doing what we need to do so that the truth is pervasive, not just in Christian circles, not just in communities, but more importantly, make sure that the truth is pervasive in the halls where legislation is made. And one of the ways to do that is to hold us accountable. Hold us accountable. I said to someone when I was elected, said I didn't really, my bishop said, you're going to have to give up the church because you can't do both of those. You will kill yourself. You'll be dead in 6 months. And so I had to turn the church over to another one of our ministers. But I said, I'm still a pastor because I still have that heart and I'm still doing the things that help other people. And this is my life's calling. Look at your neighbor and say, what is your life's calling? Look at him and say, what is your life calling? Whoever you're sitting next to behind, look, what's your life calling? What's your life's calling? Okay, some people, what's your life's calling? Okay. But then the next question we have to ask ourselves is, am I living my life's calling? Am I being true to what I've been born to do? And at Dr. King's funeral was a song that he liked Mahalia Jackson to sing, and she sang it at his service. And I just want to leave you with this. I think I got 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes left. Okay, let me try to do this. If I can help somebody as I travel along, if I can cheer some wounded with a word or a song, if I can help somebody as a good neighbor, then my living, then my giving, then my living shall not be in vain. What you do today will follow you tomorrow. God bless you.
Oh, boy. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1.
Before we go into prayer and meditation, there's one thing that we forgot. And we can be inspired by the wonderful message that we received, but the energy that we've received from that message, let's manifest it now by greeting one another. Stand, hug, elbow, share your dream. may we switch from energy to low energy. Take a nice deep breath, please. Put your feet on the floor. Feel the floor with your feet as we join in prayer and meditation. You can close your eyes and consider the difficulties of our world, the fires, the floods, the earthquakes, the war, the lives lost, the landscape changed. But you can rejoice with the blessings of support and survival, where neighbors help neighbors, where we as a UU community give service and love. You may share your joys and sorrows in the chat box if you so choose. Take this time to reflect on our world, beyond and within yourselves. Joy is wishing her sister Nancy a happy birthday. Take time now to reflect and meditate. As we close our meditation, let us remember the words we've heard today and the words from Martin Luther King. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by their color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. And so be it. Amen. We have a few announcements, first by Philip, then one by Nathan, and one by Jackie.
Hello, good morning. Philip Moore, and as a follow-up to my service, our service on February 5th, we're having a workshop on June 3rd talking about active hope. Active hope is a process whereby we can face the daunting challenges of our world and not lose hope. In fact, turn that into constructive engagement. So there are a series of practices that we'll be going through in that workshop that helps you deal with the realities of the world and continue to go forth, as it's called. So that workshop will be on Saturday, June 3rd, and we'll start with a potluck lunch, and we'll go into about 3 hours of programming. So I really hope you'll join us on June 3rd. Welcome to the carnival. So I should start by thanking each and every one of you that participated in any way in our carnival fundraiser. Not only did we have a wonderful time, but we met our goal of raising $20,000 for the fellowship. We tried some new things, we had a good time, and we're actually meeting as a team a little bit after today to learn what we did well and what we could do better for our next one. And while I may be putting away this jacket and hat for a little while, be rest assured that you will be seeing us again in the fall with an online-only auction, and then next year for who knows what. So thank you.
Well, I am so glad I said yes to Karen. Whew. Wow. And my announcement is, if anybody happened to look at the obituaries on Friday, the RGJ added a line that was wrong. It was nothing that Betty wrote. So please come to celebrate Jim's life on July 23rd on a Sunday, not the May 23rd, this coming Tuesday. Oh my gosh. So, and of course it was just a line down by itself that was easy to spot. July 23rd. It did get fixed, but I'm hoping anybody that happened to see it in between there didn't put that, oh yeah. So July 23rd, spread the word if you know anybody.
Hello. My name is Nathan Bakken. I am the Director of Faith Exploration here at UUFNN. My pronouns are they, them. And today, after service, starting at 12:30, we are going to be having our Chosen Faith program, Part 2, where we'll be talking about the theology and the polity of Unitarian Universalism. So if you are a new member of our community or an old member who wants a refresher, or you're discerning, what is this place and what do they actually believe? This is a great opportunity to come and learn about this tradition, the theology that formed it, what we believe now, and how we co-create a community together. Because at the end of the day, polity is about our co-creation of this community. And we'll learn how to do that. So after service at 12:30 in the Star King room, you can talk to me after the service if you have any questions. And for our Zoom friends, I'm in the works of troubleshooting it to make it also an online offering as well. So look forward to the Zoom version hopefully soon. But thank you all.
Just to remind you, there's always more going on. So check your email and make sure you sign up for our email if you're a visitor, and you can contact anyone that that has greeted you. If you need help with Zoom or support, or someone would also enjoy that benefit, please contact any of us. Again, reminding yourself there are people out there in Zoom land that might feel isolated. Please make sure that you interact with them, and they may need a connection. The Reno Posse is, after our service, selling eggs and also has spaghetti kits. And as a spaghetti kit maker, it's one way you can really contribute to their objective. We will afterwards have coffee time, and please, those on Zoom, stay there for small group conversation. Thank you for coming.
Could you please rise as you're willing and able? If you could remain standing. Our benediction today is based on the words of Langston Hughes from his poem, Dreams. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow.
If you'll remain standing, would you please put your hand over your heart and raise your hand as we do, as we share our benediction and a blessing for risk takers and failures. Today we share in a blessing for losers, risk takers, all failures far and wide. Blessed are those who fall in the mud, who jump with gusto and rip the pants, who skin the elbows and bruise the ego, for they shall know the sweetness of risk. Blessed are they who make giant mistakes, whose intentions are good, but impact has injured, who know the hot sense of regret and ask for mercy, for their hearts will know the gift of forgiveness. Blessed are they who have seen a D or an F or a C or any letter less than perfect, who are painfully familiar with the red pen and the labels as less than, for they know the wisdom in the imperfect. Blessed are they who try again, who dust off, who wash up, who extend the wish for peace, who return to sites of failure, who are dogged in their pursuit, for they will discover the secret to dreams. Remember this sacred place. Remember this morning. Remember these messages. May you go in peace, renewed and strengthened. And so be it. Namaste. Amen.